Solid. No errors. We're good. Okay. Count it down in 3, 2, and 1. Here we go. All right, count down 3. 3, 2, and 1. Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 287 of This is the G Podcast. What's up, y'all? Climbing a mountain, but we're here today. We are here. We're definitely here. We're your weekly. That's inside. Don't worry about it, y'all. Ain't no mountain. Ain't no valley low. We're your weekly recap podcast doing news, politics, pop culture, and the tea. Make sure you are following us on Spotify. This is the G Podcast. Make sure you do it today. It's me, Tommy B. Tanya B is back in the building. Tanya B, what's up? Yes, yes, yes. Talib Shabazz is in the building. Talib, what's up? What's up? Vi is on Papa duty, I guess, this weekend. So cool for him. Good for him. He's getting some rest and recovering.
Yeah,
so for sure. So everyone, Tanya B has been on a quest. So I've got to ask the question: what is it like searching for a home in the ATL, Tanya B? You don't have to. I know you don't want to be detailed about where you live.
I want people to know the real deal, because if you watch House Hunters or anything relative to those shows where people look for houses, do not believe the hype. What the show needs to be is what happens with that stuff that's on the cutting room floor. My search was about maybe 9 months.
9 months?
I looked at over 100 houses.
Wow.
100 houses. I'm telling you.
So is that just you being persnickety?
No. A lot of houses, they were in foreclosure or they were short sales, and that wasn't disclosed in the information. A short sale takes a long time. Then you've got to go back and forth with the bank. A lot of houses where, how you hear those people that say, oh, we'll buy your house as it is. No inspection, no anything. But then you go in the house and it looks like somebody was in there having Fight Club. I've seen holes in the walls. I've seen water. I've seen mold halfway up the wall. I've seen roofs falling in. You name it. I did see it. Now I know what termites look like. It was a real education, and it is absolutely a process. And although you may want to go under contract with the home, the key is once you get that inspection, that changes everything, because that really tells you what's wrong.
One real quick question. I mean, if you look at Atlanta, where did you see the majority of the problems? Is there an area, considering the fact that you were kind of all over certain areas? Is there an area of the city that says to you, if you ever have to do it again, I'm not going to waste my time?
Honestly?
Yeah.
I would not go over really into the West End. It looks really pretty. In a lot of these parts of the city that they are, gentrifying, parts of the Northwest over there and going up Bankhead Way, they have just put lipstick on a pig. I went into one house. I said, this is everything I want. It's perfect. But then when the inspection report came up, there was a deck on the back of the house that wasn't permitted and properly put on. So I could have walked out there and fallen down 10 feet. Yeah. The joists in the floor were rotted. The floor was about to fall in. All these things, again, lipstick on a pig. And what a lot of they said, over 30% of Atlanta is all rentals. The rest is investors who the city let come in here, buy up everything. And when they can't sell these houses and get them to pass inspection, then they rent them. A lot of people who are renting homes in Atlanta are sitting on ticking time bombs, and they don't even know it. When you talk about mold, and I said improper or no permits, things that weren't done up to code.
Wow.
It was a real eye opener.
Well, Well, I'm glad you found, considering, I'm glad you found what you wanted and
I am.
something that met the standard.
And even
Yeah.
that was a journey. I'll just say this to you. Anyone who buys a home and they say, oh, everything looks fine. No, I learned about shifting foundations. Please, 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 in the name of James Brown, invest the money, whether it's 1,000, get the full Monty and get a mold inspection. Get that inspection report. It can save you a whole lot of heartache. I would never buy a house as is. And a lot of houses were for sale as is. Just say no. If you do it, you will be sorry. Listen to me now. Believe me later. That inspection report saved me.
And I will say this, considering, don't look at the fact that Atlanta is not really on a body of water. There's been a lot of street flooding in certain areas.
Yep, every time it rains.
These flash floods, and a lot of these houses, depending on the area, have been in fact impacted by street flooding. So don't think about the fact that, well, there are no hurricanes, there's no, it's not on a body of water, it's all land. Nah, the rains, the flash flood.
If you don't buy a house that has a lot of trees, you have to pay and get permission to cut down a tree, even if it's a danger to your house and it's rotten and dead. And then you get these big trees, those big, beautiful southern trees. Yeah, they have long roots, and their roots can mess up your water lines and your plumbing.
Yeah, especially if you have a septic tank. Oh my God,
it's a nightmare. Would never do that. I would never do it.
Nope, agree. Appreciate that. We got to do a whole show on this.
And do the show from the new spot.
Well, cool. Very good. Can't wait. Right. Can't wait. Let's go ahead and do news. We'll come back on the other side. All right, y'all.
Italy, what you laughing at?
It's time for the Week in News with Syracuse Mike.
It was a big day Monday as Israel and Hamas took major steps toward peace under President Trump's U.S.-brokered Gaza plan. Hamas released all 20 remaining living Israeli hostages, while Israel freed nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners and detainees. The president spoke before Israel's parliament.
This is not only the end of a war, this is the end of an age of terror and death.
And then he joined world leaders in Egypt to formally launch the peace plan.
A new and beautiful day is rising, and now the rebuilding begins.
The remains of 4 Israeli hostages were also returned, although 24 are still missing. Aid is again flowing into Gaza, and Israeli forces have pulled back. But officials warn the fragile peace faces major challenges ahead. Grammy-winning singer and neo-soul pioneer D'Angelo has died after a long battle with pancreatic cancer. That's according to several reports. He was just 51 years old. Born Michael Eugene Archer, D'Angelo rose to fame in the mid-1990s with his platinum debut album Brown Sugar, helping define the neo-soul sound that blended R&B, funk, and jazz. His family called him a shining star in a statement confirming his passing Tuesday. Fox News has joined nearly every major network in rejecting new Pentagon rules for journalists proposed by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who once worked for Fox. In a joint statement with ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN, Fox called the policy unprecedented and a threat to press freedom. The new rules would bar reporting on stories not cleared by Hegseth's team. Hegseth says outlets that refuse to sign by Tuesday night will lose Pentagon access. He added,
So you would think that the Pentagon press corps of all press corps would be front and center across the board on wanting to give credit to the president for forging this kind of peace, and instead what they want to talk about is a policy about them.
Only One American News says it will comply with the rules. A federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to stop firing federal officials during the ongoing government shutdown. Judge Susan Ilston in San Francisco said the layoffs appeared politically motivated and had a human cost. The temporary restraining order halts job cuts that could have affected more than 10,000 workers.
All right, quick question for y'all, and just give me the best timeline you can on this question. And I'll start with you, Talib. Speaking of lipstick on a pig, how long will this peace accord last in the Middle East?
But it hasn't lasted. They've already broken the deal. They've continued to fire on the Palestinians.
Yeah.
And Netanyahu is also on Israeli TV saying that the campaign's not finished. He's saying,
Yeah.
that this, he's basically like, yeah, forget what I'm telling Trump. We're still taking over, y'all.
Yeah.
They've
Yeah.
got 58% of the country of Gaza. They've got 58%, and they were supposed to go down to what, like 15% or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
come on, man. It's shameful. It's shameful, and our government is paying for
yeah.
it.
I mean, that's what I was going to say. But I mean, considering your answer, Talib, should I even ask Tanya B? Tanya B. I was going to say like 6 months, but
Yeah,
you
I
said
mean,
yesterday.
yeah,
Tanya
24
B.
hours.
Tanya B.
I wouldn't give it 6 days. This is
Right.
all, to me, it's like lipstick on a pig, smoke and mirrors. I think it's just I think it's the orange one trying to showboat and show us more reasons why he should have gotten the Nobel Peace Prize. But let me explain something to you.
Right.
There is no peace, so
Yeah.
you don't get it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think
Exactly.
ultimately, and it was tough. Really, you want to see something like this in history and cover it. Your journalistic curiosity wants you to turn it on, but I couldn't watch it because it was all about him. And he is like grandpa. It's kind of like you're hearing all these me, I stories, and going off the trail. You could even see I guess among the panel, among the other countries, there were people who on the panel who were, I think, nodding off or shaking their head. So
Of course.
Yes, mental
he's,
instability is real.
he's rambling.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of sad. And by the way, I do want to mention this. It didn't help his approval rating, or it hasn't. He hasn't seen the uptick yet.
Right.
We'll see how it goes next week. But I just thought it was worth asking. But I see it wasn't.
Yeah, I think it's funny that the the black MAGA was all very gung ho and all excited, but that oh yeah, Trump, y'all, who's talking now?
Yeah.
Trump got the peace deal done, and I'm like, yeah, but they haven't honored the peace deal. And what's more is they're shitting all over the fact that America's still paying for it.
Yeah, America's going to pay for it. I mean, look, let me tell you guys, this kind of peace doesn't come without somebody getting paid. Hamas got paid.
Right.
How did Wanda Sykes say in the movie with Chris Rock? I'm not the maid, I'm the paid. So they walking away right now, the paid. They get paid. I mean, part of this is about money. So a big part of this is about money. So yeah, some money got dumped into Hamas, and they probably said, okay, we'll give it a shot, and we'll see how it goes.
Right.
I thought, one of the big things, and Tanya B, you'll get into the T, D'Angelo dying at age 51. It's a shocker. I think for people who were close to him, they already knew it was a ongoing battle.
Yeah.
I'll start with you, Tanya B. How did you react hearing about it? For the first time.
You read it and you say, this doesn't say what it said.
Yeah.
And it kind of came out of nowhere. Then I started thinking back to all these gigs he would book and at the last minute cancel. And I think that was to throw people off. Case in point, the Roots Picnic in Philadelphia. It was like, the return of D'Angelo, he's going to turn it out. Come on, Philly, everybody, come on down. And Maxwell steps in.
Yeah.
Then you got to think about, okay, when Angie passed away, I'm sure they were on, according to what, was out there, she and D'Angelo were on cool terms. He was not at her service. So all these things where you think he would be and all these gigs he had booked ended up being no-shows. But when you think about that, you think, well, maybe he's just being, real eccentric. Something's come up. Maybe, he wasn't pleased with his appearance when he picked up all the way people were talking about it. Because if you think about it, even as far back, so let's say 5 years ago, there was all this hype about the return of D'Angelo. They did get him up there once to do SNL, and that was supposed to be the kickoff to this big return of D'Angelo, but he never came outside.
Yep.
And I just remember the first time I ever saw him, And maybe I'm a little biased because my sister worked for Virgin Records in the label he was signed to. And the first time I was at an event and he was performing, people were like, "Who is this guy, D'Angelo? Who's D'Angelo?" And then he got up there and mesmerized the crowd with this song. Do you remember that? Can I cuss on this podcast?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Remember he had that song, "Shit Damn Motherfucker"?
Yeah.
People were like, "That's that dude." And then, why both of you butt ball naked? And I mean, talk about coming in and catching, your partner with, I guess, your friend or your neighbor, whoever. And that is my first D'Angelo experience. And that was in 98, 97, 98, before he really blew up.
Yeah.
And I will never forget that. And then I went and listened to the song. I'm like, man, he is telling this dude off. And it was so smooth. You almost didn't realize it because the track was like, yeah. So that was my first memory of him.
What about you,
My
Talib?
first connection with him when I first knew of him and met him. Yeah.
I got you. Talib, what about you, man?
Really, it was just that song, that Brown Sugar came out, man, and it was, it was that soulful groove with hip hop flavor from a young cat who you could relate to, and you were pretty much right there where he is. You know what I mean? Like, 51, 4 years younger than me, that's baby brother right there.
Yeah.
So and then looking at who he was really in touch with musically, Jay Dilla was doing production, Premier did production. I mean, he went
Raphael Sadiq.
Right, exactly. He went to the greats for our generation. Plus what he was putting down himself. And then, that video that was almost like, I'm not watching this video at all. You know what I mean? Like,
protecting my manhood. I'm not going to watch Untitled.
Like, I was like, okay, and I'll give it to the ladies. You know what I mean? Like, that's your thing. Like, I'll hang out at the party after the male strippers come. You know what I mean? Like,
but
it's a lot
I like
easier
watching,
at that point.
I like watching because people are posting the Aaliyah reaction. Because Aaliyah was a fan after he did that song. So they have Aaliyah reaction video to her to that video. Yeah.
That was just one of those things, periods and times where it was like, and then being part of the Soulquarians, Badu and, the whole De La and all those cats, you know what I mean? It's just, once again, we've lost a part of our musicology, our personal musicologies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
I know it's not a real thing, but we were in touch with these people through their music because this was our generation.
Yeah.
And it's hurting to see our generation going.
Yeah, so true. Hey, I gotta say, because I'm right. I mean, 90s is my wheelhouse when it comes down to doing music and being in the business.
Right, business wise, right.
And I remember when Badu came out, but I also remember, if y'all remember, Kadar.
Nassenberg.
Who was big coming in talking about, I got this thing coming called Neo Soul. And it for me, because the 90s was so big, I was a big fan of the Tonys.
Right.
I was a big fan of Jodeci. It was that natural progression for talent to where you could go into, there was a place in Fort Worth, Texas called Caravan of Dreams, intimate, like a jazz club. And these kind of guys are like Eric Benet, Kadar, D'Angelo would come in and do these intimate shows where they could, and Eric Benet is known for taking his shoes off during the concert and just walking around barefooted. Blew you away, man.
Yeah.
When they come in, he would come in and just get on the organ, get on the piano. But I have to say, to get a realistic account, and I'll come back to you, Talib, in a minute, of who he was, it reminds me, I don't know if y'all watched the show Atlanta, that there's an episode where, what's his name, the star of Atlanta, Childish Gambino.
Glover.
Glover is, he's in this business where they're going after talent. So he's been given the mission to go sign D'Angelo. So all these people are showing him, it's like a map to find D'Angelo. So he goes, it's like a gas station bathroom that leads to this waiting room to where he's waiting, and it's a real thing. If you check out the episode,
D'Angelo, that does sound familiar.
He goes in, he has to wait, he has to sleep on a mat in this room, and eventually this kind of large guy, he finds him, and it's not D'Angelo. Right. But it's just that whole secretive Prince kind of vibe that he had, man. Yeah. So Tanya B, you're talking about the fact that he didn't show, well, he wasn't maliciously not showing up.
No, I think I think that was more of a cover so people would not know,
absolutely,
of the illness. So maybe
for a lot of people who kind of grew up in that culture, they were like, "Oh, okay, the hermit,"
right.
the recluse,
the recluse, yeah. But he'll be missed, man. That era, I mean, I still miss. I love, and I still use the phrase even when we do Velvet Frequency Radio, neo soul. I'm not one of those who dismiss that era. I think it still exists. It's just, it's just too much work for some of these artists. They just can't keep up.
Well, once again, it's like I think a lot of what it comes down to is the musicality of the people who are creating music at this point in time. Yeah. A lot of people may recognize good music and want to recreate good music, but don't necessarily have the talent for keyboards and arranging and bringing in strings and all this stuff. So, if you look at what was happening when D'Angelo came out, I mean, we were really just coming out of that acid jazz movement. You know what I mean?
Well, you had mentioned Brand New Heavies.
Exactly. All the acid, all the cats out of the UK, D-Influence, Blue
Soul
and all
Soul.
of them. Exactly. So, it's like you can see it starting to morph, but we still don't really have the bands that can support it. So,
they're gone. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like having D'Angelo come back, and he was on that fine line because he was giving us the grooves he had, but he was still street with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was that everybody could relate at that point. And then, the fact that he had slow songs, was just like, oh my gosh. And the slow songs he had were making everybody slow jam tapes at that point.
Remember,
you know what I mean?
How does it feel?
I mean, right. There's so many people were born because of How Do You Feel? You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I gotta say, and of course, rest in power to D'Angelo, but I really have to give kudos to Tanya B with the Birdwire. She drops in a lot of artists who kind of keep that sound alive. Right. I give you your props, Tanya B, because on the mainstream side of radio, you don't hear a lot of these artists anymore. And you won't. They won't. I mean, but I do. Yeah. And I've always said, I know a lot of people criticize, music or film or, creativity coming from across the pond, but it's there. And it's there strong. I mean, they believe in that soul music and they continue to push to keep it alive. So, kudos to you, Tanya B. I know you've got several artists, who are from, like LMA.
Lucas Seto, who is kind of like, he's big in the UK. He's just getting a fan base over here, but he is amazing. And I even saw when he posted, it was like, my world is not the same now that D'Angelo is not here. So all those guys across the pond, it's a shame, so much more of an appreciation for what we call our music than we do, if that makes sense.
Right. No, I agree 100%. But rest in power. I know you're going to mention it also in the T. We'll wrap it up with that as well. One more quick thing, and then we'll go to break. Stephen A. Smith is in the news again for something other than sports. Go figure. Always. I think Stephen A. avoids sports because he's wrong most of the time. And I say that as a person who is heavily into sports and I follow because, and let me say this, and I'll be brief. The reason he's so wrong is because he's such a homer when it comes down to New York. He'll pick a New York team with no logic behind it. The way he was, he'll pick the Knicks no matter what. He'll pick the Yankees, whoever, as long as they're from New York. And but what it does for the fans is a turnoff because you're not really giving a true analysis. You're just, all he is just a New York guy, being a New York guy talking sports. Yeah. But anyway, he went after Jasmine Crockett, got his head handed to him by Jasmine Crockett, and also people who respect Jasmine Crockett. He questioned her effectiveness. He said she should focus more on getting stuff done instead of being an impediment to the political process. He criticized her language. This woman's an attorney. He took issue with her use of what he called rhetoric of the street language. And he argued that, while she's educated, her style would not be effective, in political discourse, negotiations. And he ultimately said the Republicans were going to use it against us, against, whatever the opposition party. And I have to say, dude, have you not been paying attention to 47, 45, 47? Because talking about street language, even at the Accord, even at the peace accord, stupidly, I mean, it's just the same, it's just the same language. You get it all the time. So the black community sees it, as him targeting black women intentionally. As a matter of fact, if Molly left the show, he's replacing her with a white woman. They announced it. I think she starts on November 3rd. And they said that he ignored her background as a civil rights attorney, and he's gone after black women in the past, but he refuses to go after the craziness of Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Mm-hmm.
But he'll go after Jasmine Crockett. So what I'm going to do is put a people poll on this episode on Spotify. I would love your thoughts. What do you think? Do you think he's wrong, and do you think he's right in terms of his criticism? But, dude, I hate to say, I never say, because I don't think it's fair to just put people in a box. But at least if you're going to go after somebody, be right about it. You can't be right about sports. At least, if you're going to branch out and do politics, be right about politics. And people are going to disagree with me on that, and that's cool. You got your opinion, but social media is lighting his ass up, which I think is due. Any thoughts real quick before we go to break?
I guess we should just go somewhere and have several seats. Go sit down. It's like, I try to give him the 1, 2, 3, and I get to that, and I say, anybody care? Not me. Can we just put a muzzle on him?
Yeah, I think he, honestly, I'm going to step out on a limb and say this. It depends on where Molly goes, but I think Molly's going to surprise people because I don't think people understand how integral Molly was to that show. And I think, we about to find out. Talib, I'll give you the last word on that.
Stephen is a clown. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, that's just, that's your
stick. And obviously, right, because you come from a time when shock radio was a big thing. Mm-hmm. And you've somehow been able to politically correctly in these times keep some of that edge a little bit. So whatever, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like, he's cool if it was like it's a deliberate punching bag to distract you from an Epstein file or a new executive order or another meeting. These people are getting paid. We don't know. We don't know when people are on the take or not on the take. All I know is that people are being interjected in times where just when I thought, okay, it was safe to look over here, now there's another question about something that the wizard says, and I'm getting tired of all these little pointless distractions, from the usual suspects.
Yeah, and I have to say this, and I'm just gonna, I'll let you wrap it. but I have to say he is if you remember Morton Downey Jr., what was his name?
Oh, yeah, Morton Downey. Oh, yeah.
The Morton Downey show. He's the black Morton Downey.
Always has been.
And, you know, right, I just think history repeats itself. So eventually it's going to burn out. And, you know, there are landmines everywhere for guys like this.
Yeah.
And eventually, you know, he's going to step on the wrong landmine. But, you know, I think he fits the mold. Like you said, he's an entertainer, one. Right. But eventually it's going to come back to bite him. You wrap it up with that, please.
Yeah, because it's just getting old. You know what I mean? And I'm like, the more energy we give these people, the more they continue to do exactly what they're being paid for. And I'm really getting tired of putting oxygen into this fire. So, you know, if he can, it's time to let his ass go.
Yeah.
And his hairline.
All right. Hey, let's take a quick break and we'll come back with T. All right. Appreciate y'all.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Tanya B.
Now then, children, it's time for tea.
It's tea time, y'all. Sipping the tea with Tanya B.
Tanya B, what you got this week?
Oh, you know, we can't go much further with talking about the losses that we had in the world of entertainment. And sadly, they seem to be getting more and more consistent, you know, with them happening. You look up and, you know, people are passing. And it's not always, you know, people who are of a certain age. You know, we talked earlier about D'Angelo. And, you know, I think this is a moment to just remind people to learn your family health history. Because if you don't know, you can't get in front of it and try to either slow it down. You know, early detection, prevention is always cool. But, you know, one thing I think that a lot of people have forgotten about with D'Angelo, back in 1994, there was this group that was put together of a lot of male R&B, neo soul, you know, types of singers, even LL Cool J, who was a hip hop artist. And it was a song by Black Men United called You Will Know.
Yes.
I would encourage everybody, go back and listen to that song. D'Angelo wrote that song. And in 1994, he was born in 75, but he was, you know, still in his 20s when he wrote that song. And that was before he really kind of blew up, if you will. And, you know, that should even be a testament to, you know, his greatness at that time.
And by the way, if you can't find it, it's from the movie Jason's Lyric.
Jason's Lyric, right. And you think you had a lot of people who were hot back then. So you had a lot of egos in there. You had, you know, Keith Sweat in the room. You had Lenny Kravitz. You had Joe LaVerge. You had Boyz II Men. Stokely, who was one of the last, I think, live music artists. The Tonys were in there. I think that might have been where he and Raphael connected. You know, and Lenny Kravitz on the guitar. So I would just encourage folks to go back and find that song and listen to it because it is amazing. I think it's one of, you know, the unsung R&B hits. You know, again, the 90s was an era where music was, you know, it was there, and it's never, to me, we have not gone back there. I know everything progresses and changes, but if I could go back, you know, into R&B, take me back to like 85 to 99, and I'm good.
Yeah, it was good. Oh man, it was good.
Yeah. So if you don't watch Jason's Lyrics, just check out this song. I think
it is on Apple Music, by the way.
Yeah, And then we talked about Diane Keaton, you know, and sometimes when you looked at her, she was very quirky, you know, and looked at the way that she dressed. And this woman would wear turtlenecks and gloves, you know, and she was known for her hats in the middle of the summer. But it's so interesting because the last time I saw her on Jimmy Kimmel, I thought, is she hiding something? You know, some women, you know, want to hide their age. But except for maybe a few movies she was in, even Annie Hall, she had the hats. And one thing that was revealed about her is that she had a thing for dating her co-stars. She was in a Woody Allen movie. She dated Woody Allen. She was in a movie with Warren Beatty, but everybody dated Warren Beatty.
Everybody.
Outright.
Everybody dated. Madonna.
The Godfather with Al Pacino, and Al Pacino said the one thing he regretted was that he did not marry her. Because she never married. She adopted children, but she never married. But I mean, you think just the body of her work, you know, she went from The Godfather to First Wives Club. And one of my favorite movies is Mad Money with Diane Keaton and Queen Latifah and Katie Holmes. That's a very interesting mix of people. I love that. And it was like she was the OG and she showed them how to rob their own place of work and all that money, you know, and they tried to catch her and they couldn't catch her. So to see somebody who at that point might have been about 69, 70 years old, she climbed a fence, threw a stake at a dog and took the money and ran, just like the saying says, take the money and run. So I definitely think that she'll be missed. It doesn't matter, you know, what ethnic group you come from. There's somewhere in your lifetime that Diane Keaton showed up.
And let me say, I love The Godfather, that whole series.
Yeah.
Okay.
When he closed the door on
she plays Kay, his wife, the second wife in The Godfather.
Yeah.
And what she told him, and I'm not going to give it away because some of you may not have seen it, and I don't want to spoil it for you. But what she told Michael Corleone in that scene they did together, I'm not gonna say what she told him.
Oh, I know that one.
He knocked the heck out of her. It was like, you go, what? What did you do? I'm like, wow. So if you haven't seen The Godfather, look for that scene where she gives him news about something she did regarding their family. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah. Go ahead, Tanya B.
But the classic scene at the end where he closes the door in her face.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, cold-blooded, just cold-blooded.
Michael was, after he took over.
Another person. He became another person. Absolutely.
Yeah. What else you got?
So, yeah. So rest in peace to Diane Keaton. Also I want to say, if you're into music in any form and you were born, let's say, you might be a baby boomer, or the generation after that. But I think just because of the visual, everybody knew the rock band Kiss, because of the makeup. And you think about how long did it take them to get that done night after night after night. And that was a big thing back then because stage makeup is not like it is today. And you notice that makeup never ran, no matter how much they perspired, everything stayed in place. I often wondered, do they have to get facials, to deal with that? Because that's a lot on anybody's skin, for 50 years, night after night. So Ace Frehley, who was, they say, he's one of the guitar gods of rock. Passed away. I understand he was in his home. He fell down, had a brain bleed, was in ICU for quite a while, and then he transitioned. And really, if you think about it, and these guys were still out there in their 70s, still wearing all the makeup. Wow. I'm sure they were wearing wigs and whatnot, but just again wearing that makeup. Yeah,
and then after that album.
They had it was like walking on bricks with the, and they never seemed to waver. But I think they were what they call one of the gods of arena rock because I think they set the standard for a lot of groups that came after them. You had Ace Frehley, you had Gene Simmons, and they would, go their separate ways, but never break up, do solo projects, and then after Ace Frehley passed away, you hear about Gene Simmons. Well, here's what had happened was, Gene Simmons says he really dislikes drinking water, and you can go without food, but you can't go without water. And he claims that he fainted while he was driving and he hit a parked car. That to me is not what he calls a fender bender. Okay. He's downplaying it, saying that he's at home, he's resting, is fine. But then you have his wife saying, I'm not getting in the car with you ever again. If you're driving.
I would never drive with that dude again unless he's in an Uber in the back seat. Yeah. Come on.
Well, it's
No.
one thing to drink water, but I think maybe he doesn't like to get up and go to the facilities. You got to put some type of liquid in your body. It can make you have seizures as well. So we just wish him a speedy recovery. But imagine just being in a car behind, in front of, or next to someone who faints.
Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna say this, Tanya B. When the story broke, immediately, because I always tell the story of the fact that I grew up in all black, 100% black neighborhood, went to 100% black schools up until high school, and when I moved to East Point, it was really my first time in a major interaction being in the minority in a community. And I just remember how massive, you're in a neighborhood, you playing football with the white kids, you all playing together. Mm-hmm. But when you would go to their houses, go to the rooms, man, Kiss all over everywhere. Yeah. And this was right around the time when they were massive, One Rock and Roll All Night. They had the huge song, which was top 40, #1, Beth. They were massive. So, when I hear about Kiss, I immediately go to that. And I know a lot of you out there, went into these periods where you integrated or you went into new communities. Kiss was massive. They were really massive. They were almost like cartoon characters to a lot of people. And I remember that even when you'll remember the song they did, the first song they did without the makeup. Even when you saw them in real life, you could still see the makeup. You could feel like the mask. Exactly. The mask became. You knew them. You knew who. You could tell Gene Simmons. You could tell what was his name.
Paul Stanley.
Paul Stanley. You could see them all. You could see them all without the makeup. You could still see them. So rest in power to Ace. Yeah, go ahead.
You know what? That's one of those Halloween costumes that people will always. That's one of those go-to Halloween costumes. As long as you can get the makeup. But what's interesting about this whole Kiss thing is that they were actually planning a 50th reunion concert in Las Vegas. It was supposed to take place next month. Wow. And based on Gene Simmons is a man of a certain age, so saying that I'm perfectly fine is just like D'Angelo not showing up for a gig, not saying that it's apples and oranges, but I think he might need to rest for a second. And I can't think of who could replace Ace Frehley.
Yeah, in that band. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, a lot of these guys have. I mean, it's funny because even like I said, that period of time you had Van Halen. So you had David Lee Roth leave and Hagar. And I was watching, the news this week and they showed Sammy Hagar. He's like almost 80. So I'm like, damn, how do these guys, how do they do it?
Very slowly. Very slowly.
Wink, wink. I'm leaving that alone.
But, hey, man.
Go ahead.
That's just... It's a loss. It's definitely a loss, man. Kiss was one of those groups that transcended. Everybody knows Rock and Roll All Night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just one of those anthem records, that
Even Beth, because Beth became like the power ballad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, everybody had to do it.
Yeah, Beth, I think was Power Ballad started after that song, or
well, you still had Beth. You look at Guns N' Roses did November, Sweet November, or what not when Sweet November, but November Rain. Okay, so it was almost like if you were, or you had Bon Jovi doing Dead or Alive. Everybody had to do a power ballad. After Kiss went to number one with that.
Was the thing.
Yeah, Kiss went to number one with that. You got anything else on the Tanya B? Got anything?
Every week I have a dumb donkey.
Yeah.
And this week's dumb donkey is, God bless, Darius McCrary, who we knew as Eddie Winslow from Family Matters. He can't stay out of trouble. Nope. He can't stay out of jail. And the thing is, he keeps getting arrested for the same thing. He was at the U.S.-Mexican border. I guess he was trying to run for the border. But he got arrested again, and it's always for not. He keeps making all these babies with all of these women, and he's not paying for them, and he can't afford them.
Yeah.
I don't know what is, I mean, look, he was
Eddie, it's just crazy. And we talked about it a little bit, when you were out, Tanya B. And I just... he's just one of those guys who will eventually do something that's going to put him in harm's way.
Yeah.
And we got several of we have several of those entertainers we can name. What's my boy from That's So Raven?
Orlando Brown.
Yeah, it's kind of like, they're the one. Ray J is pivoting, kind of teetering. If he keeps messing and calling out the Kardashians, dude, don't you see what happens?
Now they are suing him. They're suing him now for defamation.
I figured that was coming because eventually the Kardashians, the coven, they come after you.
He can't fight them. They're not even in their league.
Going on. If you're a brother and you were messing with the Kardashians, eventually, when you come out of step with them, something
you go
happens.
crazy, you end up broke or on drugs. Name one.
Something goes down. So good luck, Ray J.
I thought his mother probably pulling her hair out.
Messed up. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
by the way, I'd be remiss without mentioning the Monica Brandy tour right now. That is just killing. It is killing. It's all over TikTok. It is amazing. I'm so happy for them. They both deserve it. Excellent catalogs, and I'm glad a lot of people are revisiting their music.
Yeah, and they have grown.
Yes, they have.
Think about it, they were very young when they got into business. 13 and 14. And now they are grown women. They're mothers, and they were saying all of that. Tension that people thought was there was just created by other people. And know what it is? They get it. They get it. They're cool, but like Aerosmith and Bon Jovi and some of the other bands, let's go get this bag. We can be cool. We don't have to be best friends and hang out. Let's go get the bag. And I think they deserve it.
Well deserved. Yeah. Killer catalogs. Yep. Hey, y'all, let's go ahead.
It's time to wrap it up. This is the G Podcast.
All right, Talib, I'm going to come to you for final shout outs. What you got, man?
I got nothing this week, because there's a whole lot of nonsense going on, and I was dealing with a whole bunch of nonsense on the school side this week. So shout out to all my graduates, though. Shout out to all my October graduates of the Lincoln Tech East Point Electrical Department.
Kudos to you. Yes,
man. I can't wait to see y'all do big things.
Yeah, good stuff. Tanya B, what you got?
I want to say, gotta say shout out to my amazing real estate agent, Marco Bola Keller Williams. My mortgage people were amazing. Shameless plug, Silverton Mortgage. And I also want to say I got something that I'm working on right now. I can't say what it is. It'll be a couple of more weeks, but it's going to be very interesting. And just want to say shout out to Nate Rosser at I was thinking this. Okay, hold on. He has done some amazing things, and he's at a company called Smug Mug. So shout out to him, and of course to my mother.
Good stuff.
Amen.
Hey, and by the way, your realtor needs to be looking for landmines in old war-torn areas, because definitely he knew where not to put you. So good for you. Congrats.
But see, he listened, and he's like, "Don't even come in this house. We're not going there."
So gotta know where the landmines are.
Shout out to him. Yeah.
I gotta just shout out the Falcons fans. I'm gonna shout them out because when I'm hard on them, I go off. So when they do well, I need to give them praise. Well fought battle against Buffalo Monday Night Football for all the world to see, 24-14. Congrats on my Buffalo folks. See? Okay. And one of the most complete games I've seen them play in a while. Now, let me say that and see what happens this week, because they got San Francisco, which that has not been a great history for us, but we'll see. So when I trash them when they play bad, I need to praise them. So when they have good games. So there you go. Okay. So yeah. Falcons fans, and good luck to you as this episode drops right before the Sunday night. I think a Sunday night game that they play against San Francisco. We'll see how they do. Yeah. Hey, we love your thoughts. Scan the QR code on our logo, social media. Our links are there. Go to castropolis.net. Everything's there. Make sure you hit us up on the people poll. you can leave a voice message. And don't forget, on Spotify this week, I'm asking the question about Stephen A. Smith on this episode. So go there and give me, your opinion, yes or no on the question. Also, don't forget, check out Velvet Frequency Radio, Birdwire, 4 p.m. on Sunday. And we air this episode, or the current episode of This Is the G podcast, at 6 p.m. So 4 p.m., 2-hour Birdwire, 6 p.m., This Is the G podcast, y'all. And don't forget, if you're checking us out live right now, go on Saturday nights, 10 p.m. 2A, Club Velvet Frequency. And all you have to do is get the Live 365 app. We are there. Just search Velvet Frequency. Have y'all been able to find it pretty easily?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so it's on my phone. So
yeah, exactly. I got it saved as a favorite now.
Yeah, hey, good. Appreciate that. We're still doing stuff. All right, y'all. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast. And I just do have to say, don't forget, we'll be in Troy November 1st, which is, my alma mater formerly Troy State University. We'll be there for homecoming. So Velvet Frequency Radio, Castropolis.net is a sponsor of the big scholarship banquet. That Saturday night, November 1st.
Oh, that's nice.
We'll be at the big alumni tent Saturday, and then we'll be at the ball that night. So, all right, country time. We're gonna be wearing a cowboy hat, and we're gonna be trail riding, y'all. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, hee-haw.
Hee-haw. There you go. All right, y'all. With that, don't laugh to leave. You know I got it in me. All right, y'all. With that, episode 287's in the can. Peace and power to the people. Y'all have a great week.
Peace.
Sorry, the flower.
Hey, I'm gonna do my Eddie Murphy. There's a new sheriff in town.
Okay, Reggie.
Hey, his name is Reggie Hammond.